Alright, so this video is going to be about how I personally deal with fear and anxiety. Primarily how to overcome that feeling of fight or flight. More recently, I've been framing practically every situation where I feel that feeling of fear, I feel that anxious feeling, as fight or flight. I know it's an oversimplification, but oftentimes that's what I need to do to overcome that fear. As an example, there was one time where I was just playing the piano. I was playing a piece that I wasn't really confident because I was still learning it, and my cousin was sitting next to me. So she starts to like what I'm playing, and she takes out her phone, and then she starts recording me. And at that moment, I felt like a wave of an energy that I didn't like come across my entire body, especially, my fingers, because they were the focus point for what I was doing. And it was like a very, very instantaneous, should I keep playing or should I not? Because all of a sudden the environment has changed for me. All of a sudden I'm being recorded and stuff instead of just playing for fun or for me or something like that. So at that moment, I left it up to muscle memory at first. I just kept playing. But I kept going, even though I was being recorded, even though that anxious feeling overtook a lot of my body. So that's just one example, because oftentimes whenever you play at a recital or whenever you play in front of an examiner, that feeling is amped up by a lot. So whenever I encounter a situation like this, I frame it in a way in my mind where it's either I choose to fight, I commit to it, or I don't. I choose flight. But the mindset I decided to develop that I believe is a strong way to shape my future, to shape my destiny, is to choose fight each time and not let anything get in the way of that. No matter what I'm feeling, no matter how fearful I feel, no matter how anxious I feel, I choose to fight each time. And that's sort of like a default decision, so I don't fry the part of my brain that's trying to make decisions. So essentially the approach is very simply put. If it's something I care enough about, I don't deliberate, I don't think about it, I just say what I want to say or do what I want to do. And I believe that's a mindset that can help train yourself choose the more uncomfortable path each time, even if it might be a mistake, even though there is a negative reaction. You're still learning from it and you're still growing from it. And I believe that's the better path compared to just staying silent or not doing anything about it, and nothing happens because you decided to play it safe. Definitely this is a very simple approach to solving this issue. I know that there are a lot of underlying issues behind it, but I believe that if you start small, the small things that you do feel like you want to say or want to do, you choose to say or do it, and eventually that builds up. It's like a muscle that you need to train that just grows over time when you do it more often, when you train it more often. And eventually the harder things become a lot easier to just default fight. Choose to do it, choose to say it. I believe it does get easier when you've trained yourself over time to always choose to fight. So one thing I wanted to also talk about was how this idea can change the outcome of your life. Because oftentimes I feel like back then when I was younger, there were situations where I would choose to flee instead. I would choose to not engage in a situation that would have negative consequences if I chose to speak up or if I chose to do what I felt like I wanted to do. So an easy example of this is dating. I'm pretty sure everyone has felt that anxious feeling of asking out someone they like or just talking to someone they like and sort of making the next move. I feel like if you're used to not choosing fight, oftentimes you're gonna miss an opportunity of what if you decided to ask them out, or what if you decided to make the next move. It's something that can affect your future quite a lot. Things like starting a YouTube channel, doing things you've never done before, talking to people that are strangers but you feel have a connection with you or vibe with you or think like you, and you want to have those conversations, you want to make those connections, but you're scared. You don't know what will happen. What if you're ignored? What if they don't like you? So these are things that go through your head, but if you choose to adopt the mindset, fight each time, you try anyways. And that's the point. That's what I feel is the decision that will help you grow the most. And I think it's important that you understand how it can affect you, because if you are in the default flee mode, it's gonna be harder when you actually do come across those opportunities. You're not gonna go for them. You're gonna choose to stay safe. And that is a huge factor of how your life is gonna play out. And understanding that is the first step to trying to break out of that, because it does take a great amount of effort to want that in the first place and then choose to expose yourself in a very vulnerable way where there can be negative consequences that you have to face because of your actions. And the final thing I wanted to mention is that there's gonna be a lot of mental exhaustion from choosing fight each time. It's mentally taxing, it's definitely not easy to do, and at first, if you're breaking out of the default flee mode, then of course it's gonna be something where after you've done it, you just feel really tired. My advice for that is to see it as a big win when you do choose to fight, and let it motivate you, let it actually make you feel like empowered and positive, and celebrate about it. Tell your friends that you decided to do something that's different than your normal thing. And you actually turn it into something that is a positive feedback loop. And instead of being mentally exhausting, it can be mentally rewarding. So hopefully this mindset of choosing fight each time, despite how you're feeling, can help you guys out. Just remember that this advice has come from my personal experiences, and that sometimes there are situations where you should choose not to fight. And you sort of just have to be very aware of those situations and be able to distinguish between making excuses versus actually, this is not a good situation where you should fight. Because oftentimes that is what happens. You make up excuses to turn it into a situation that you shouldn't fight in, and then you just never do it. So that's personally why I choose to always default fight, because there's so many different ways a situation can turn out, and maybe it gets better because you decided to fight. But of course, it's really up for you to decide, and it's not a mindset that I think everyone should adopt, but at least for most of the time, like daily activities that don't have extreme consequences, I believe that it's a mindset that can definitely help. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. It was my first time having no script, thinking on the spot. So if you managed to watch the whole thing, thank you very much. And comment below about a situation where you were in fight or flight mode and you decided to choose fight instead of flight, even though normally you would choose flight. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.